I've had an experience where I had a very senior person in the U.S. government told me flat out, Lou, we want you to stop this program. And my response was, well, okay, sir, I can understand that, but can you give me the reason why? Because from our perspective, these things are absolutely real. We are seeing these, we're recording them, we've got the date on them. And the response back to me was, Lou, we're not arguing that they're real. We know they're real, but we don't think you know what they really are. And so at that point, I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is some sort of secret U.S. kind of program that they didn't read me onto, which I'm fine with. And I said, well, okay, sir, that's fine. And his response back to me was, what you're dealing with are demonic beings.
That's where we are today, family. Now listen, these beings are demonic. And how do we know that they're demonic? Because we know who controls the system here on planet Earth. We understand it very clearly. You and I, we're in what is called a soul trap. We're in a soul trap system here on planet Earth. If you want to ascend into the physical realm on planet Earth, you've got to go through a soul trap. And that soul trap is through the reproductive system of the female. Now here I have an ankh for you. The ankh represents that female system, represents the female nature and the male nature at the bottom, which is the phallus, combined to create a soul trap system to lock physical souls into a flesh suit. And the Bible backs us up succinctly when it says you pass through the waters. When you pass through the waters, when we come through the waters, the Lord says, I will be with you. That's Isaiah 43:2. Let's look at that deeper. Isaiah 43:2 says, right? When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, and they shall not overflow thee. And when thou walkest through the fire, you know what that fire is? That's the portal. That's what this is right here. That's the fire. We go through that portal because we are born into a physical system here on planet Earth. And in order to get through that system here, we have to go through the female reproductive system. That's the soul trap. And that's what Lou Elizondo is trying to tell you in so many words. And I'm going to break down today how each of these so-called whistleblowers can only go so far. They can only tell you so much. We're going to get deeper. Okay, when thou passest through the waters, we see the Hebrew for that word is ma'im. And ma'im means, in the Hebrew etymology of the word, we're passing through the semen. Here, we're not talking about swimming pools. We're talking about the reproductive system. We're not talking about going to the beach. Okay, we're talking about the waters, the water of man, the semen. When thou passest through the reproductive system, when semen and egg meet, it creates a portal. And that portal is how souls come into these flesh body systems here on planet Earth. That is what the soul trap is all about. All right. So God tells us very clearly that he will be with us, understanding that we are going to fall, right? We're going to fall, but he will be with us. He will be with us. All right. That's why Jesus says, Yahweh Shai, in Matthew 10:28, and fear not them which kill the what? The body, but are not able to kill the soul. Right? You can kill the body. The body is a flesh system. The body is corrupt. The body is sinful flesh, but the soul should be pure. And if you follow the law, statutes, and commandments, you will keep the soul pure and prevent the fallen, the shiny ones, from taking it. You need to understand this, right? Now, let's get deeper.
Louis Elizondo is a former intelligence officer with the Department of Defense. He claims he was the director of AATIP, the Pentagon's UFO program from 2010 to 2017. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has defended this guy and said he actually was pretty prominent in the government working on these things. Here's what he had to say.
I remember the conversation very well. This is a person I respected tremendously, very, very senior person. He's told me, he said, Lou, I want you to stop doing this. I said, okay, sir, I certainly can, but may I ask why? And he says, well, we already know what it is. Now, at that moment, I honestly thought maybe it was our own technology. I was running up against some super uber secret sap, and they were telling me to stop. And I said, okay, sir, so it's ours? And he said, no, that's not what I'm saying. And he said, he asked me point blank, have you read your Bible lately? And I wasn't quite sure where he was going with that. And I said, well, sir, I think I know what it says. Where are you going with this? And he said, well, then you would know that these things are demonic and we should not be pursuing them. Yeah. And he wasn't kidding. He was.
Okay, let's stop it right there. So clearly Lou is catwalking the idea that these entities, these aliens, these fallen angels that are masquerading around as gods on the planet are demonic. And he also mentions that, according to the conversation that he had with his boss and one of his top leaders at the Pentagon, is that the guy says, have you read your Bible lately? Okay. And that's why I keep telling you, if you don't go back to the Bible and read and uncover the truth that's wrapped in this Bible, you will be confused about UFO disclosure. All right. I want to make it very clear. These entities are demonic. They are fallen angels. They've brought fallen angel technology to planet Earth. God originally gave them the assignment to help man and help man fulfill a destiny. But these fallen, instead of helping man, instead of following through with what God commanded them to do, they decided to go AWOL. So according to the book of Enoch, Yahweh sends 200 angels to guide and instruct humanity. These 200 angels are called Iron in the Aramaic. All right. Both words mean what? Watchers. These are your watchers. These watchers, instead of following what God said do, they corrupted humanity by teaching them the arts of weaponry, war, astrology, sorcery, witchcraft. Okay? This is where you get your witchcraft from. It was angel technology that they handed down to man to corrupt them. These angels saw the daughters of men as fair and took them as wives, according to the scripture. These angels seduced human women. They had sex with human women. They had sex with them. And that's how they created a race of Nephilim. Six finger. Let me show you. Now watch.
Y nos acabamos de encontrar con esta familiar que tiene. Give me. Wow! 6 fingers. Wow! Also here. Oh! Also here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh!
And so in 2 Samuel 21:20 it says, and there was yet a battle in Gath, where was a man of great stature that had on every hand 6 fingers. You see that? And on every foot had 6 toes, 24 in number. And he also was born a giant. This is the bloodline of the Nephilim. This is the bloodline of the fallen. The descendants of that bloodline will tend to be born with 6 fingers and 6 toes. Let's look at it.
The most normal looking hand with 6 fingers.
I can't move one by one.
Yes, you can.
1, 2.
Okay, so when you see people who are born quite often with these 6 fingers, again, they are descendant of the bloodline of the Nephilim. Now, remember in the book of Enoch, these angels seduced the women. So they came after the women to have sex with them, and then therefore created a new bloodline of the Nephilim. And it was because of this bloodline of the Nephilim that God decided to flood the entire earth to wipe out their bloodline. All right. And so the souls of the giants turned into demons, and those demons tempt humans for the rest of time. So the Nephilim, right? God causes these giants to die. And when they died, their spirits transformed into demons. That's where demons come from. But demons are not the same as fallen angels. Those are two different things. You need to understand the history and the sanctity of the scriptures here. So, according to the book, God bound these 200 evil angelic watchers who were the fallen angels that fell on Mount Hermon to where? Tartaria. In the Bible, they call it Tartarus. Tartaria and Tartarus are the same. This is where you get the Tartarian Empire. And so when we look at Tartaria and we look at the fallen angel technology, we understand very clearly where they got the technology from. It was the fallen. It was the fallen. And so they went completely against what God told them to do. They created this soul trap system here on planet Earth. And that's what this whole thing is about here. It's all about souls. And so you're not going to get away from the spiritual component here because you have a Pentagon official. And a lot of people are saying now that Lou Elizondo, you know, he's controlled opposition. He's a shield. Lou Elizondo is the real deal. But Lou Elizondo, just like a lot of other so-called whistleblowers, cannot give you the full disclosure that I'm going to give you today. You won't have to wait 5 and 6 years for Stephen Greer and Linda Moulton Howe to give you alien disclosure. I've already given you alien disclosure on this channel. The aliens have already been here. The aliens are fallen angels that fell on Mount Hermon, right? 200 fallen that fell on Mount Hermon. They took earthly women and had sex with them and corrupted the entire gene line because God did not want angel DNA mixed in with human DNA. When you see these aliens, the robotoids that are the grays and the actual real grays, if you look at the reproductive system of the real grays, not the robotoids, not the robotoids, but the real grays that are created from the gene line, they are what? Are they haploid or diploid? Let me explain the genetics to you. Human beings are not haploid. Human beings are diploid organism. All right. Human beings are diploid organism. They are not haploid, right? They have 2 sets of chromosomes, right? From each parent, 23 from mom, 23 from dad. Do you understand? 23 from mom, 23 from dad, right? Which would give him 46. The original genetic line of the human being was 48 chromosomes, but the so-called Anunnaki, which you call are the, Nibiru and all them, the Anunnaki are the fallen angels, and the fallen angels fuse the chromosome and fuse the telomeres at chromosome number 2. So it reduced the human genome from 48 to 46. And that's why today you have 23 chromosomes from your mama, 23 chromosomes from your father, which is part of the reproductive system of the soul trap. Hope that makes sense. That's the reproductive system of the soul trap. All right. And so you are a diploid being. You are a diploid being. But the angels, the fallen angels, are haploid. They don't have 2 pairs of chromosomes from each parent. Because remember, when God created Adam and Eve, the original humans on this planet, they did not have belly buttons. They did not have belly buttons. I always go back to that, and I probably repeat that a lot for you, but it's so that you understand something. They didn't have an umbilical cord connected to them, which means that the original creation that God made did not come through a reproductive system of a female, like we come through a reproductive system of a female today. Do you understand? That's why it says when you go through the fire, when you come through that portal, God will be with us, because that portal is how you come into this physical realm here today. Hope that makes sense. All right. And so when they captured these angels, these fallen angels, and they examined the bodies of these fallen angels, guess what? Guess what? They were haploid. They were not diploid, which further proves the Bible, and it further proves God's creation and idea for humanity. And it further proves that these fallen angels did not have 2 separate parents. Only human beings have 2 different parents. All right, let's keep it moving. What you're looking at here is the dollar bill. Whenever we're dealing with fallen angel technology, fallen angel calligraphy, fallen angel symbols, fallen angel esoteric meanings, we always look for the star. The star will always be there because that is their symbol. It represents the Baphomet, and it represents that they are fallen as a fallen star from the heavens. Where do they originate? This is Draco. This is your Draco. You can see the eyes right here. You can see the front place over the nose and the chin here. And at the forehead, you can see the star. All right. Now let's go deeper. How do you know it's Draco? Look at your dollar bill. Again, you see more calligraphy here. More of this kind of like fallopian tube type webbing. That's reptilian calligraphy. It's been in your face the whole time. All right. You see the pyramid separated from the base pyramid. That pyramid is the Draco symbol. It represents Draco reptilian. It is their symbol. All right, let me show you. Let me show you. I want to prove everything I'm saying to you so you understand that we don't need to make nothing up on this channel. Let me show you. You see that right there? That's the Draco symbol. That's the portal. All right, the pyramid, the eye in the middle is the portal. The triangle is the actual technology and the magic that the fallen angels utilize to access the physical realm in this dimension, which is third density space. Right? And then these coming off is the portal itself. It's lit, it's enlightened, it's illuminated. It's illuminated because Lucifer is an angel of light. Do you understand? You're going to always see this pyramid. That's Draco's symbol. Now, you remember the V series that was on TV. Right? Remember the reptilians taking over the planet Earth? This was a test pilot to see if humanity could, see if y'all could actually handle the implications of what was going on. So they ran a lot of propaganda to see if y'all could handle it, and y'all just, blew it off as a joke. So they basically knew, hey, they can't really handle this this truth. Now you remember the series that came out in the 1980s, and then they did a remake, I think in the early 2000s. Of the show called V, right, which were about reptilians who were eating humans. This was a propaganda program to psychologically get you prepared for what was really happening in the real world. And so we know this was the show that they came out, and as the scripture says, in order to understand the plans that they hide from the Lord, we have to turn things upside down. This is their symbol. This is their symbol. It is the pyramid. That's the Draco reptilian symbol. They put it in your face the whole time. You thought it was a V for visitor. No, it's a pyramid for Draco. That's what you thought, right? Same pyramid that you saw Rihanna in the video that we talked about before when we dealt with Lady Gaga, right? If you haven't seen that video, you need to go see it. It's the right side up pyramid, right, which represents the masculine principle, and then the upside down pyramid, the inverted pyramid, which represents the female principle. And I told you the Superman logo is an inverted pyramid, which represents the feminine energy. I told you that on the last video. Okay, the pyramid is their symbol. It's Rihanna that's in that pyramid, the Umbrella song that she dropped, and then she morphed into this demon dog face entity, subliminally playing on your subconscious mind in the video, right? But if we go to the movie V, this is the remake, this was the show. The reptilians taking over the planet Earth. Again, this was a psychological program to implant predictive programming into the population, because when they predictively program you, it's much easier to handle it. But most people just blew it off as a stupid little TV show. When we invert it, as we say, they hide their plans from the Lord. We invert it. Now you have the Draco symbol, which is the pyramid, over the flat plane. Over the flat plane. So what this is saying is that this flat plane is controlled by this symbol and this legion. They put it right in your face. They put it right in your face. They put it right in your face. So the pyramid is not Kemetic Africans. The pyramid was built for Draco. That is their symbol. That is their symbol. It is not Africans built a pyramid. I'm going to make that very clear. It's not Africans that built the pyramid. This pyramid was built by Draco. That's the Draco symbol. You see it everywhere. And you always see it in the portal, because that portal represents the same portal that everybody came through when we were born into a flesh suit on this planet. All right? I'm going to make that very clear for y'all, so we're not confused by anything. All right? That's what that means. That's what that portal means. It's another dimension, a gateway into this system. See it? Every depiction, you see the portal. Same portal that we saw in the Catholic Church here when we looked at the portal. Same thing. It's a sheep head. You see the eyes there, nose. This is St. Peter's Basilica. And you see the angels being trapped into this portal system, falling into the soul trap. All right? That's what it is. So when you see the dollar bill, still the same, Draco symbol, but the pyramid capstone is elevated off. That's what it means. It's enlightened, which means this is the portal into this dominion that they run. And you see the calligraphy here, reptilian calligraphy. Same with this. This is a monument in Prague. Right? This is on a building in Prague at the embassy. We're gonna, right? Same reptilian calligraphy. That's your Draco reptilian right there. Same reptilian calligraphy. See the folds and like these flowers. You see that? That's reptilian calligraphy. You'll recognize it when you see it. I'm going to show you more so you can get the hang of it. Right? This is a Draco face right here. You just can't see it yet. Remember, Draco art and calligraphy affects multiple parts of the brain at the same time, because they can see in the infrared spectrum. And we can't see in the infrared spectrum. And we don't always see what's right in front of our face. This here is a face, but you don't recognize it as a face, just like some crazy art. But this is actually a face, right? So Draco does that. So here's your dollar bill, right? That's their symbol, Novus Ordo Seclorum. And there's their symbol. In this symbol we will rule, right? Now, if you circle the ends of it, you will see the following. You will see M A S Mason. And you see the Baphomet, which is the 5-pointed star, covers that. I told you, whenever you see the 5-pointed star, same as Baphomet, that represents their Immaculate Conception. Their Immaculate Conception is the female reproductive system on planet Earth, which is the harness of the soul trap here on planet Earth. So it's a Masonic order. You thinking Masons got something to do with buildings. Part of the Masonic order deals with buildings, but we're talking about creating human beings and life forms. Masons create life forms, right? You see the Draco reptilian snake tongue right here on the end. That represents the DNA strand that I showed you on the other video. The DNA strand is right there, which is symbolic of the reptilian tongue, because remember, you got 23 chromosomes from your mama, 23 chromosomes from your daddy through the parthenogenesis system. And the parthenogenesis system is a corrupted bloodline system. That is their bypass to get rid of God's creation. All right. I'm just breaking this down for you kind of quickly. Just follow with me. All right. Here is the Pentagon. Here is the Pentagon. Right. The Pentagon, what Lou Elizondo was trying to tell you is that the Pentagon is working with the fallen angels. The Pentagon is working with the fallen angels. United States is on Team Satan. That's why they call it Shaitan. United States is on your money, works with the devil, works with Lucifer. So the military is working with Lucifer to help enslave humanity. Now, if you don't know where Draco comes from, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. I'm going to break so much shit down for y'all today. You're going to be very clear when we're done today. Watch. Here's Draco. Right? Now, where does Draco come from? You see this right here? This is the Pentagon in the Arlington Park. You see that? You see that symbol right there? Now, does that look like some human stuff? Does that look human? Does it look pleasant? Is it beautiful to you? Or does it look menacing? Because when I look at it, it looks kind of menacing. It looked like some alien shit to me, right? Now, if you follow the points of these talons, I guess is the best thing we can call it, or like talons. If we look at them, which are the three symbols here, that's at the Pentagon. That points to the star constellation Orion. That points to the star constellation Orion. Now here they are. Look at these giant talons, it almost looks like, right? These point to the belt of Orion. That's where they come from, the Orion constellation. You have the Pleiades constellation and you have the Orion constellation. Right? Now, let's prove it. I told you everything I'd say, I'm going to prove it. Let's prove it. Go to the Bible. Let's go to Isaiah 27, 1-3. Isaiah 27, 1-3. Check it out. Check it out, family. Bible don't lie. In the Bible, Isaiah 27, 1. In that day, the Lord with his sword and great and strong sword. God is going to bring a sword to smash the wicked, right? He shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent. Even Leviathan, that crooked who? Serpent. And he shall slay who? The dragon that is in the sea. That is in the sea. We're going to come back to that in just a second. I want you to marinate on that for a second. All right. Who is Leviathan? Well, I know Leviathan. Leviathan is Nakash. Nakash is the serpent. Nakash is the same serpent that beguiled Eve in the garden, that tricked Eve to go against God and her creation so he could have sex with her. That's what it all means about Eve eating the apple and all that, right? Now let's prove it. So in that day, the Lord with the sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing who? The piercing who? The piercing serpent. Who's the serpent? Nakash. We know who Nakash is. Nakash is the snake, right? The serpent. The same serpent that beguiled Eve in the garden. Ah, did we forget? Don't forget who the serpent is. That's Nakash. Nakash. Seraphim. Nakash and Seraphim are the same. Fiery serpent. Right? The illuminated one. The shiny one. All of these adjectives to describe this serpent man that comes from the constellation Orion. I'm going to show you in the Bible. I don't even have to go into Google search. I'm going to show you right here because I know what I'm talking about. Watch. Watch. Now, who's Leviathan? Leviathan is the serpent. Leviathan, right, is a serpent, right? Figuratively, the constellation of the who? Of the dragon. What is the constellation of the dragon? What is the constellation of the dragon? Let's go to Job. Let's go to Job. Here we go. Job 26:13. By his spirit he hath garnished the heavens. We're talking about God. By his spirit he hath garnished the heavens, and his hand hath formed the who? The crooked who? Serpent. Who's the serpent again? Nakash. Nakash. Who's Nakash? The snake. Right? Let's go more. Let's go more. Let's go to Amos. Amos 5:8-5:9. God is talking about the judgment, right? How man will turn away from God's commandments, God's statutes. They will follow their own hearts, right? And they will make a pact and an agreement with the fallen ones, right? Right? Seek him that maketh the seven stars in Orion. God is the creator of it, is the author of it. Don't be afraid or make a pact with the evil ones. Seek God, because God is the one who created everything, the Most High, right? Seek him that maketh the seven stars in Orion and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, right? Orion is what? That's the constellation Orion, right? That's the constellation. Let's go back to Isaiah. Let's go back to Isaiah. I'm going to show you something. So when we go to Isaiah 27:1, it says, the Lord will smite these. He will smite the wicked one with a sword, right? Shall punish Leviathan. Leviathan, the serpent, the piercing. What is the piercing here? The serpent. We're talking about the same creature. And the constellation by that name. Who's the crooked serpent? What does that mean? What constellation by what name? What we talking about here? Let's look it up. The constellation of the dragon or the serpent is Draco. Draco, I told you, I'm going to make it plain for you. It's Draco, right? That's the Draco constellation. So we have the Draco constellation, which is a big giant constellation, and we have the smaller constellation of Orion. All right, those are two different constellations, but the naming and the hierarchy of the naming gives you a clue and insight to where these fallen have come from. And the ones that are ruling planet Earth today come from the Orion constellation, and we call them, their name is Draco, because there are other beings that are in the same bloodline as them that come from the larger constellation called Draco. We call them Alpha Draco reptilians. And the Orion constellation, that's what this pentagon mural is pointing at. The Orion's belt, Orion's constellation. That's how we know that the pentagon, according to everybody else and all the sources, they are working with Draco. They are working with the Draco species to maintain the soul trap over humanity. This 1000% facts I'm giving y'all right now, family. I'm breaking it down for you. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet, and I wanted to break through so you can really understand why Orion and the Orion constellation is so important to understanding where these fallen angels have come from. All right. Now, this is a book that they promote online. It's called the Book of Wisdom. A lot of esoteric, meaningless stuff that's not really tied in well. But you know, they get a B for effort. But here they're talking about the soul system, and the baby here in the middle is born through the portal, which I already showed you. But then he tries to correlate the zodiac signs to the baby's rhythm here, which is the astrological body. Now, in a perfect world, this would make sense if there were actually 12 zodiac signs. But we already know that they're not 12 zodiac signs, they're 13 zodiac signs. So we know that the astrophysical body coming through the soul system, which is the reproductive system of the female, cannot be tied to 12 zodiac signs, because we know that when the zodiac signs were created, right, and when the calendar was changed through to the Gregorian calendar, we know that January and February were the last 2 months actually added to the calendar. So really, January and February weren't even on the calendar in the beginning. And we also know that they're not 12 zodiac signs, there were 13 zodiac signs. I'm going to show you that now. 13 zodiac signs. And this is important because the constellation of Orion is critical, because there are 13 Orions, which is a specific multiple of a substar. There's a substar in the Orion constellation that they call 13 Orions. And this is a specific multiple of a sub-giant star within the Orion constellation, right? Allegedly located 92, light years away from the sun. We know that that's neither here or there. That's NASA spreading more lies. But the constellation of Orion is obviously a key anchor point to understand the history of these fallen angels. So the Orion constellation correlates here. I want to show you something that you might miss. The 13th zodiac sign that they omitted so it can fit into the 12-month calendar year is this one here, which is Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus. That is the one that they took out. And that one is important because it represents, in the historical context, in the mythology, back to the serpent holder or the serpent bearer. I'm going to show you that in a second. If we go to the zodiac sign, the 13 signs of the horoscope, we see it here, right? We have Capricorn, January 20th to February 16th. Aquarius, February 16th to March 11th. Pisces, March 11th to April 18th. Aries, April 18th to May 13th. Taurus, May 13th to June 21st. Gemini, June 21st through July 20th. Cancer, July 20th through August 10th. Leo, August 10th through September 16th. Virgo, September 16th through October 30th. Libra, October 30th to November 23. Scorpio, November 23 to 29. Ophiuchus, which is the constellation that they took out, is November 29th to December 17th. Then there's Sagittarius from December 17th to January. And then it starts back over at Capricorn. All right? That's what it is. That's what it is. So we know based on the constellation that they hid this constellation. Why did they hide this constellation? Why is this important? Remember in the last lecture I told you the caduceus. The caduceus represents the two snakes, which is the two genetic lines of the serpent, one male, one female, bound into one human body, which means we went from a haploid system into a diploid system. Right? Remember, Adam and Eve did not have belly buttons. There wasn't 23 chromosomes from mom, 23 chromosomes from dad. Okay? It was the Nakash, the fiery serpents, that came and recreated a new human being on this planet with a functioning reproductive system. Their symbol, which represents the caduceus here, is the major symbol of the world today. And this is the wings at the top, which means that the Nakash, the fiery serpents, have wings. They can fly. They have craft, right? Craft, K-R-A-F-T, which is witchcraft. They have fallen angel technology and black magic, dark arts that they have mastered. They're able to fly flying saucers, and they have magic over the genetic line of the human being. Because remember, when they came down and saw the daughters of men and had children with them, they created a new race of beings called Nephilim, and God tried to wipe them out with the flood. So they have always been in rebellion against the Most High. The caduceus is that symbol. Before the full caduceus symbol was this here. It was the single snake around the rod. The single snake around the rod. Okay? And that comes from the constellation that they took out of the zodiac sign, Ophiuchus. Right? The constellation Ophiuchus was intentionally left out by the Babylonians to fit the 12-month calendar system. Okay? The 12-month calendar system. Now, Ophiuchus is known as the serpent bearer. So you have the Aquarius, who is the water bearer, and you have Ophiuchus is the serpent bearer, closely linked to the caduceus, the traditional symbol of medicine, through the Greek myth of who? Asclepius, who was identified with the constellation. You understand? Right? A renowned healer, listen, was said to have learned the secrets of healing through who? From the snake. Remember, these fallen were teaching mankind dark magic, witchcraft, war, the art of war. Okay? That comes from the fallen angel technology. That's why I'm bringing this out to you. And they changed the zodiac sign and omitted this 13th zodiac symbol to get you off of the trail. That's why I'm bringing this out to you today. All right? I'm bringing this out to you today. You have one, which is the caduceus, which is two snakes, and then you have the other one from Asclepius, which is the rod of Asclepius. But again, in the lore, it was the serpent that taught man, the new man that they created on planet Earth, the dark arts, magic, right? Which led to all kinds of witchcraft and dark arts that destroy humanity. All right? I want you to understand where we're coming from. Facts. Now, so we know now that the reason why the United States of America has dominated the entire earth, one of the main reasons why the United States of America has military bases on almost every continent in the world, the reason why America has led the pack is because of the fallen angel technology and the deal that they made to trade human children for alien technology. And so Draco is the one who runs the United States of America and runs the world. All of these so-called wars between Russia and United States and China, all of that is just fodder for the sheeple. It's not real. It's fodder for the sheeple. The entire planet is under the rule and control of the Draco reptilian race on this planet. All right? And that is the soul trap that they have created on this planet. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. So I've given you some scriptures to go to so you can reference it. I've showed you about the soul trap. In the Vatican, they have a depiction of the soul trap here, which is the St. Peter's Basilica. So I broke that down for you. Now we're going to go into a little deeper here, because we gotta really go deeper here. So now I'm going to go a little deeper. All right. We understand that Draco has put it right in front of your face. I told you about the dollar bill. Here's another depiction. Right now, you're probably seeing buildings here, and you're seeing this dragon and this coat of arms. This is a face of a Draco. This is the face of a Draco reptilian. They run the planet. If you want to know how deep it goes, look at my other videos. I broke it all down for you. They run the planet. It said that the planet is ruled by the evil one until the coming of God, right? Till Yahweh Shah returns, right? So right now they're in control. And this is a soul harvesting system. So let's talk about the soul and why the soul is so important and integral to their system here. Let's get into that. So we have a Pentagon official asking Lou Elizondo, has he read his Bible? And that these entities, these aliens, are demonic. Let's jump over to Linda Moulton Howe. This is the interview that Linda Moulton Howe did with Keith Abbott. Now, again, Linda Moulton Howe is doing what she's always done. And Linda Moulton Howe is a great journalist. She's done a lot of great work over the years with cattle mutilations. She's done a lot of great work. I will give her those kudos. But Linda Moulton Howe has to keep her mouth shut, because she only will go so far. Now, I want you to listen to this interview that she did with Keith Abbott, and listen to what Keith Abbott is talking about here.
I believe that they are the ones in charge. That's why they mingle amongst us. And I believe they want us to reach a spiritual level somehow. There was a talk about souls. They were interested in our soul somehow. How do we have a soul? How does this container hold the soul? That was a strange conversation. I thought, man, that's just weird stuff people talk about in this base.
Well, that is critical. This is the most critical of all the subjects that you have mentioned. Can you describe where you were and who you were talking with or listening to about the containers and the souls?
I was sitting outside of my office, smoking a cigarette at the table with all the guys from the 732nd, the communication guys that listen to people talk. There was a couple of officers there. There was a first lieutenant and a second lieutenant, and then I believe there was a lieutenant colonel. They were talking about how these beings from another planet were interested in our soul. How did our soul get in our body, and how could they extract our soul? How did it fit? Could they move the soul to another vessel?
So, according to Keith Abbott, right, these beings are trying to learn about our souls, right? They're trying to understand our souls. Well, the Bible clearly tells us that the object of the devil, the object of Lucifer, the object of the fallen ones is to take our what? Our souls. Our souls. And so what the government is hell-bent on doing is preventing you and me from tying in the Bible, tying in the scriptures. We understand very clearly that the devil's objective is to take your soul, abstract your soul, put your soul in hell. Do you understand? And so they want to do this. They want to extract your soul. They don't understand the soul because they didn't create the soul. God the Almighty, the big G, created the soul. The fallen angels are trying to crack the soul. And as I said before, it can take multiple lifetimes for these fallen angels to try to crack our souls. And so you're reincarnated, and you're reincarnated, and you're reincarnated over and over and over again. And that's why every time you come back through the system, your memory is wiped, because you're living in a soul trap. And they'll keep you coming back into the system, back into the system, back into the system, lifetime after lifetime, after maybe 100 lifetimes. And they've degraded the soul. They've weakened the soul from its original state. Then they're able to take the soul. That's what they're doing here on planet Earth. That's why this is called a soul trap. Hope that makes sense. That's why in St. Peter's Basilica, you have this replica here of a sheep head and the portal, which is the reproductive system of the female that traps the souls into it, because that's what they're doing. They're soul harvesting. They're soul harvesting. And that's what the government doesn't really want you to know about. That's what they're so scared about, right? This soul harvesting system is controlled, is a controlled system. And the so-called whistleblowers are controlled as well. I'm going to show you in a second.
Stuff like that. It was like, It was crazy, but I just listened, and it started to make some sense that these beings from another planet are interested in our soul.
Right? These beings from other planets are interested in your soul. These are not beings from other planets. These are not beings from other planets. These are fallen angels, and the fallen angels that run planet Earth, the ones that are in charge, are these guys. And they're on your dollar bill. And their symbol is the pyramid, the trilateral pyramid. That pyramid is a Draco symbol. It represents the Orion group. That's where they come from. And you can see here, that's the eyes, that's the muzzle over the nose, that's the chin and the mouth. And you always will see the star. Every time you want to understand fallen angel technology, fallen angel calligraphy, fallen angel artwork, fallen angel messaging, fallen angel esoteric meaning, it's always going to be represented by the 5-pointed star, which is the Baphomet. Because the Baphomet reinforces and acknowledges their Immaculate Conception. And the Immaculate Conception, as I told you, is the female reproductive system of how you trap souls here on planet Earth. Right? Going to keep it moving. Now, I want to say something because a lot of people are criticizing Lou Elizondo, and they're criticizing the Linda Moulton Howes and the Stephen Greers. Now, yeah, let's face it, Stephen Greer is a bit shady, right? But Stephen Greer has done a lot of work to get as close to disclosure as we can. And so I want you to reevaluate your position here. It's not that Stephen Greer is selling you out, or that Stephen Greer, is a shill necessarily. I mean, yeah, he's a little creepy. A lot of the stuff that he says just doesn't pan out. But these guys have a muzzle. They can't really tell you the truth because they'll be killed for it. People will be killed for telling you this information I'm dropping for you right now. People will be killed for that. Because they don't want you to know that you're basically living on a farm. The human beings, they don't want you to know that human beings are living on a harvesting farm. Now, it's a very sophisticated farm. You go to work, you go to, you play basketball, you go to the game on Sunday. It's a very sophisticated farm, but it is a farm. All right. And they're harvesting more than just souls here. They're harvesting food here. They're harvesting energy. They're harvesting women here. There's a brothel that is a part of this planetary system. There's a lot of wickedness that's going on with these fallen angels. And guys like Lou Elizondo, Linda Moulton Howe, and Stephen Greer, they can't tell you the truth. They just can't tell you. They can get you right up to it, but they can't really tell you for fear of losing their life. So I wanted to make that plain because a lot of people don't understand. Oh, I want full alien disclosure. You're never going to get full alien disclosure. You're never going to get full alien disclosure. It's never going to happen. All right. The only way it's going to happen is if you listen to me. There's a few other people out here that really know the truth. Lou Elizondo knows exactly what's going on. All right. Don't let these guys gaslight you. Okay. Lou Elizondo knows exactly what's going on. Linda Moulton Howe knows exactly what's going on. Exactly. Make no mistake about it. They know exactly what's going on, how, when, and where. Okay? Please don't fool yourself into thinking that they don't know. All right, they all know, but they can't say it. You know why they can't say it? Is because if they say it, they'll be violating the law. It's against the law to expose the real secret of the adrenochrome harvesting on this planet. It's against the law, right? So, I'm putting it out here because, I don't really have anything to lose. But just being honest with you, there's a lot to this. Lou Elizondo, Linda Moulton Howe, Greer, they're all really trying to work hard to get you disclosure. They really do want you to have it. But the powers that be, those who are controlling the planet, the fallen, do not want you to know. because it interferes with their ability to harvest the energy from human beings, because they work on fear. And if they can keep you as feared and as frightened as possible, they can get more of your blood to convert the adrenochrome. All right. So they don't want you to know what they look like. That's why they hide. They don't want you to see how they really are formed. They want you petrified when you have an encounter with them, because you produce more energy for them. All right. Now, Tom DeLonge is a UFO pundit. He used to be in a music group. I think he's still in the music group, but he had a lot to do with bringing some of the disclosure that we're seeing right now. I think he worked with Lou Elizondo and some others. I want you to pay attention to what he wrote here. He asked the question, are people really ready to understand and admit to themselves that we are not completely in control? Okay? Like we think we are? When you find out what's really been going on for thousands of years, huh? And you realize, right? Holy cow, someone owns us. Someone owns us. This is Tom DeLonge said this shit. Someone owns us, right? And there actually might be more than one that does own us, and they don't like each other. And we might be victims of a proxy war. A proxy war. The proxy war is the war between God and the devil. The proxy war is that God is giving us a promise that our soul can be delivered if we keep our soul pure and clean and we follow his statutes, commandments while we're going through this soul trap. We get to the other side of it by following God's commandments. We get to come back into the soul trap by allowing our soul to be corrupted and compromised by the fallen. Right? This is what Tom DeLonge is laying out for y'all. Y'all just not picking it up because y'all don't believe in the Bible anymore. You don't believe in God anymore. But these fallen absolutely believe in God, and those in power believe in God. That's why we're taking the time to roll this out over several years. Over several years. That's why we're taking the time to roll this out over several years. That's Tom DeLonge said that. Okay? So when I'm spilling the beans on right now, they want to take longer to roll this out because you won't be able to deal with it. You won't be able to handle it. It's too much. It's too much. Now, what we have here are some people. I want you to look at the photo. Okay? I want you to look at who's in this photo. Right there is Stephen Greer. That's Mr. Stephen Greer. He was a young fellow back then. Over here to his left is Linda Moulton Howe. All right? And that, my friend, right there is Mr. Rockefeller. All right, let's look at it. We've got Henry Diamond, who's a lawyer. We've got Stephen Greer, number 2. Number 2 is Stephen Greer, right? We got Bruce Maccabee. We've got George Lamb, right? Robert Bigelow. And we got Linda Moulton Howe. She's a journalist. Dr. Leo Sprinkle, Keith Thompson, Dr. John Mack, right? We got Lawrence Rockefeller, right? Okay. Ann Jones, Robert Tees, okay? And this is allegedly taken in a while ago. I don't know the date of this photo, but I know it was taken from David Icke's website. All right? Now let's go a little closer. All right? These key figures, Greer and Linda Moulton Howe, have led the UFO Disclosure Project. And to Greer's credit, I know people don't like Greer. I don't particularly care for him either. But Greer has done a lot of great groundwork to get disclosure. Linda Moulton Howe is an excellent journalist. One of the best journalists I've ever seen, Linda Moulton Howe. All right? Now we know who Rockefeller is. But Greer and Linda Moulton Howe, I believe, when they initiated their discovery and trying to uncover the truth. In Linda's case, it was the cattle mutilation. In Greer's case, it was the briefings and the dark black budget programs of the government. They eventually realized and came to the understanding that Tom DeLonge came to, is that we're basically on a farm. Humanity, planet Earth, is a farm system where they're harvesting souls, they're harvesting women for sex, and they're harvesting kids for adrenochrome, and human beings for a food source. I think once they realized that, they couldn't really backtrack, but they couldn't go any further. And so that's why you don't have full disclosure. That's why you'll never get full disclosure, because the truth is far darker and sinister than happy green aliens on a spaceship. All right. And this is a demonic war that we're in. It's a spiritual war. And you need to get back to your Bible and back to your spiritual armor to build your spiritual armor up against these entities. So I don't knock or hate on Greer and Linda Moulton Howe. I just don't. Because I think overall they tried to do a good job as best they could. And they realized at the end of the rainbow, this shit was not good. And they just like, you know what? We just going to keep it here. And Greer, quit his job as a physician. He gave up a lot of money, probably sacrificed a lot. So he just turned into this whole, psychic guru guy that goes to watch the UFOs. And then he shills by telling you that the aliens are benevolent. That's sort of his thing. Because to tell you that they are malevolent and they are killing us and harvesting us would be far too sinister. And Linda Moulton Howe just kind of sticks to her little thing as well. So I don't judge them, because this is a very serious truth that we're unlocking for you. So you don't have to wait for Greer anymore. You don't have to wait for Linda Moulton Howe anymore. You know the truth. You know the truth. And I'm going to dive to one more piece here, and then we can wrap this up. Now, Isaiah 29:16 clearly tells us, those who try to hide their plans from the Lord are doomed. Right? The wicked are doomed. They carry out their schemes in secret and think no one will see them or know what they are doing. They turn everything upside down. They turn their plans upside down so you will not recognize it. All right? Let me give you an example. You see this right here? Okay. Now, I know this like the back of my hand. But God tells us when we're dealing with the wicked, we have to turn things upside down. Or, in the spiritual sense, turn it right side up if it's upside down. The Draco and the fallen angels and the Nephilim see things upside down. So we have to flip them. So while you thought that this was a bull logo, this is a robot actually having intercourse with a crab. Hope you can see that. Okay. Now, does this mean that the person who designed this logo knew that and that was their plan when they created it? I don't know. But I do know this is not a coincidence. So for all these years, you've been celebrating this logo. You've been putting it on your car, waving flags around it. We've had MJ, we've had all of the bulls and all the paraphernalia. But little did we know, if you just turned it upside down, you have a robot having intercourse with a crab, which has got to be debauchery in some form or fashion. Right? Right? So I need you to understand, they hide their plans in front of you. Here's another example. This is Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus, right? This is a mural in one of the churches. In one of my previous videos, I showed you which church this came out of, right? So this is not anything that's been doctored. This is not AI. This is none of that. This is actually in a church, right? Whoa, right? And what does the God say? Isaiah says, those who try to hide their plans from the Lord are doomed. They carry out their schemes in secret, right? They turn everything upside down, right? So what must we do? Flip it right side up. When you flip it right side up, now you see, as I've shown you in other videos, you see Draco. You see Nakash. You see the fiery serpent, the dragon. So Who put a dragon inverted in the church? Here are the teeth. That's the face. Those are the eyes. You can clearly see this is a dragon, right? So I just want to prove to you that you have to have your spiritual eyes on to see some of the things that we're breaking down for you. And you need to understand that this planet is ran like a slave system. It is a full level soul trap. A full level soul trap. All right, I want to make that clear. Now, let's get to this because I want to wrap this up. I don't want to keep you too long. I want to wrap this up, but I want to show you something. Now, why am I showing you this? Because this is their Immaculate Conception. Their Immaculate Conception was taking the female, giving her a reproductive system and a bypass through parthenogenesis to trap souls in a physical form here on earth. And so when they created this soul trap, they perfected the female reproductive system, which is the vagina, and they created what is called their Immaculate Conception, which is where you see the whole Mother Mary information, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And this is where they got their Immaculate Conception, because they created a female reproductive system through the use of technology and black magic and dark arts, who are the Masons. They don't just build buildings, they build human forms, gave the female a functioning reproductive system so that she can bypass God's creation through parthenogenesis, which created a soul trap. They call it the Immaculate Conception. Now, the funny thing about all of this is this documentary that they did, they call it the Immaculate Constellation. An Immaculate Constellation. We're going to listen to end on this, and I'm going to give you commentary. They call this the Immaculate Constellation. Pay attention.
And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. This is going to be the original document about Immaculate Constellation.
Those of us who've been following this very closely have been hearing whispers of the words Immaculate Constellation for a few months now.
The Immaculate Constellation, it's a UAP reconnaissance program. I can affirm this 100%.
What is in here is wild. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but reports of F-22s getting like boxed in by flying orbs that they couldn't shake. There were satellite images or satellite image of a football field-sized flying saucer hiding in clouds.
I have personally walked people into members' offices for private meetings so they could see eye to eye and they could meet.
You are the author of what the world knows as the Immaculate Constellation Report.
It has been allowed.
Now, this gentleman here is what you would call a whistleblower. I want you to listen to everything he's saying. I will add commentary. They're calling this the Immaculate Constellation, which is almost laughable because they understand that it is an immaculate conception. So the wordplay is hilarious to me. But nonetheless, this man is coming forward. He worked at the Pentagon. He filed a report. And I want you to listen very carefully to what he's saying here. Remember, the Greers, the Molten Howells, right? They can't tell you, outright just tell you. You have to sort of read between the lines when they're talking. And you will see everything that he's saying coincides with everything that I have laid out for you here on this podcast. Pay attention. Listen.
Look out at the world. Look inside our country. We are not headed to a good future.
You're concerned.
I am.
Explain the concern.
Ultimately, my biggest fear is what humanity will do to itself out of fear and greed, and what we have done. And we have built a prison around ourselves. It's invisible, but it's not complete, and there is still time to maybe alter our trajectory, have a different future, may not be the best one that we had hoped for, but it's going to be damn sight better than what they have planned for us.
You know there's no going back after you tell us this on camera. We had this conversation. This is it. This is the line in the sand. You're about to cross over here.
Absolutely. I am, on a personal level, giving up the future that I made for myself and was going to try to make for a family.
Now, you can clearly tell that this gentleman here is distraught. You can clearly tell it. He's distraught, and I don't feel any way whatsoever that he's lying, he's pretending. He is 100% real. What he's feeling, what he's saying is 100% real. Who is they? When he said here, they, that they have planned. Who is the they? Right? Let's go to the next one.
Your belief based on materials, things that you've been exposed to, that you've seen, people you've talked to and communicated with over a period of a couple of years, is your belief that the technology, the race for the technology, the understanding of the big secret is entirely in the hands of people outside the government and not for the benefit of the public or to protect American national security. It's in some other realm, in some other hands.
I think it's a mix. I think our military, has a long historic involvement in this. So does our intelligence community and our scientific academic community.
Okay. So what he's telling you is that the United States government has been working with these fallen angels for hundreds of years. Okay. Before the formation of our country, there were clergy in the church that were working with them. When America got founded and established and we understood that crash at Roswell had human body parts on the craft, we didn't have any choice but to make some kind of allegiance with these entities. And the government's been hiding this from you and me, the public, for well over 100 years. Okay? This is what he's saying.
We have, as a country, allowed ourselves to be penetrated, co-opted, and corrupted by an internationalist force that serves their interests and views nations, peoples as tools and means to an end.
Okay. Are you peeping what he's saying? Tools and means to an end. Using P. Can't say they're so hard. They're taking our soul. He can't say that they're taking our souls and they're harvesting souls in adrenochrome. He can't say that. He cannot say that. So he has to say it in a different way. And they're using people. Listen.
Like a business cabal, international corporations that have no loyalty to any nation, let alone this one.
That's a large part of it. I think we have to go above that too, to start to explain the degree of the level of deception and the level of commitment they've had to maintaining that deception. It's above just monetary gain and power. They're afraid.
George and I have talked about whistle.
He said they are afraid. They are afraid. That means that there are probably people that want to try to stop this thing, but they can't because they are afraid. And this is not just about money and power, because the interviewers here, like the Lyndon Bolton Howes, the Greers, and the rest of them, they dumb down and they act like they don't know what we're talking about because they have to. All right? So they're going to ask him the questions. He's going to answer as best he can without spilling the full beans. All right? He said that these people are in control. They control the world. He says that is this an international cartel that's running everything? He said you'd have to go above that, which means this is bigger than an international cartel. This is a galactic cartel. This is a world dominating cartel. This is a interdimensional cartel. That's what this is. Pay attention.
And seeing it. We're just pretending not to see it.
Absolutely. Our public institutions like the FAA or similar in the even local context, it's not allowed to be discussed, and there might even be technical measures in the technology of this place that just prevents it from even popping up on a screen.
Right.
Like Tic Tac. So that happened for 2 or 3 weeks. They could get a little glimpse of it on these systems, really sensitive, advanced Navy systems at the time, and then poof, it fell off. At the USS Omaha, they had 12 or 14 of these things zipping in. You'd see them on the radar screen, and then poof. If they didn't want to be seen, we weren't seeing them. I guess it could be that as part of an explanation. If they don't want to be detected on radar, they have ways to avoid radar, whoever they are.
Yeah, that's a dangerous dynamic to have willful ignorance on our side, and their capability to at least attempt to evade detection at any time on theirs. If we are so certain they are friendly, why is this a secret?
Stop right there. He's spilling the beans for y'all. Y'all just not catching it. If these things are benevolent, then why are they able to hide from us? Why are we allowing them to hide from us? Right? He clearly states in that statement he just made, these things are malevolent. They are a problem. Right? As I told you, the war with Russia, Ukraine, all of that is fodder for the sheeple. There's no war. There's going to be no nuclear war. They will not allow it. This is a farm. They're harvesting. The military has to fall in line. Everybody has to fall in line. Pay attention.
I have one more.
Yeah.
Drones. So 60 Minutes just did a big piece on drones. Langley Air Force Base had these things flying over it for 17 nights in a row. State of New Jersey for weeks at a time. Sensitive bases, restricted airspace at U.S., UK bases in Britain for days and days. We can't track these things coming in. We can't track them when they leave. We can't shoot them down. We don't know where they're from. But don't worry, they're just drones. They're foreign surveillance drones. Give me your take on that whole situation.
Well, if you're a member of the public and you are still listening to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, or reading the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, all of that is controlled. It's propaganda. It is shaping your life narrative, intentionally so. As for the government reactions to that, I was very disappointed to see a continuation of the dismissal of these events by the Trump administration's press secretary. I can guess why they decided, despite the campaign promise to immediately address that issue, to not. Has to do with geopolitical situations we are currently involved in, and the fact that we are living through a constitutional crisis related to this issue.
Just seems to me that it is a...
Now, again, Donald Trump, as much as you may like the Trump administration or, love the Biden administration, doesn't matter about these administrations. The truth of the matter is that Trump, no government agency, China, Xi Jinping, Putin, none of them are above these fallen angels. They run the world. And Putin will do his part. Trump will do his part. Xi Jinping will do his part. They can only go so far. Their focus is about managing the assets, keeping the assets, fairly stable, and creating enough distraction so that no one can find out that you're living on a farm. That's what it's about. Next one.
Only very recently have I had anyone to talk to about it in outside of hey, can you make this meeting happen? I've had no allies. That has changed. It's been a very painful, costly process to find allies, but I have them. There's more of us.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't stop.
Right. You got to know some of these other whistleblowers who are still not public yet.
Correct.
But who are at least close to coming forward.
Yes.
Is there strength in numbers then in that regard?
Yes, and if all of us die or imprisoned, the seeds have been planted, more will come.
Well, those seeds have been planted about deaths in the whistleblower community. Those stories circulate, I would imagine, pretty quickly among you and people you know.
Yeah, but I'm still here.
You think anybody has been killed because they knew too much on this topic?
Yes, I believe and I think
This man is clearly distraught. There's nothing fake about this guy. So you have your Rausha Malones, you have your Jonathan Klecks, you have the people that are really trying to break this information to you, and you have the whistleblowers, like guys like us. They're going to write us off as nutballs. We're tinfoil hat guys, because no one's going to believe what we're saying. But a guy from the Pentagon sharing this information clearly told all of you right now that if they speak too much, if he speaks about this and he try to reveal too much of it before they're ready to unveil it, they'll kill you for it. He clearly just said that. So that's why I want you to have a little more compassion on some of the whistleblowers, like the Greers and then Linda Moulton Howes, because they can't tell you everything. They'll lose their life for that. So just keep that in mind.
And I could probably help someone else prove it.
Mm-hmm.
But lethal action has been taken against people that tried to get the truth out. Or maybe we're just considered wild cards, not able to be efficiently controlled, no longer useful. I think once you taste the darkness, you like using it.
They don't have to kill you. They could discredit you some way.
Oh, yeah.
Manufacture something.
Mm-hmm.
They asked you to come forward, and you even felt that you had a small piece to the puzzle, and you weren't even sure if it was worth it. And then you do that, and what you suffer as the consequences against your career. There's other things we're not saying that.
Next one. We're almost there, fam. I'm just landing this plane for y'all. I want you to see. This is a Pentagon insider telling you what's really going on, and you're going to listen to what I said and line it up with what he's saying, and we're going to see if there's truth in the middle of it.
Keeping that in, or what to, how far to go with.
What does that mean?
Well, exactly what it says. Those words were only spoken from my mouth to another's ear.
What is it like to have absolute knowledge that not only UFOs are real, that we've been hiding that our government has controlled that information away from the base human population, and that there is another intelligence that is engaging humanity straight up? What does that feel like, being one of the people that knows that and doesn't suspect that?
It's weird going to the supermarket.
Okay.
Even more, it's bizarre to work in government and see legions of people who have no clue about any of this, and no clue that they are being deceived.
Why should people believe you? I mean, I know you, I know what we've been through, but
that last comment he made, I can completely identify with. When you learn this truth, it's very heavy cross to bear. I feel the same way.
That's not public stuff to everybody, every step we've taken. Why should people believe what you're saying?
I was there. I saw it. I spent years researching it. If all that I'm consulting is passage material, then we are engaged in a massive deception against our own military and intelligence community that I was a victim of. And it would have been on a scale that probably would have been its own news story.
Oh, absolutely. Nonsensical madness.
Yeah.
We've seen people say they think that the Tic Tac is something we had 21 years ago. And I'm wondering, well, where the hell is it? I mean, if we have this technology, we've done some of it to get even inferior versions of it. Is that something that's going to be incorporated into the U.S. military arsenal, or is it something that's outside of it, that's controlled by somebody who's not using it for national defense?
I think the U.S. military might be allowed to use some of this technology in the national defense. but I don't think they ultimately have control over it.
This is a kind of arms race. It's a technology race. Whoever gains the ability to effectively weaponize this, they win. We know that UFOs, due to the propulsion systems, are a matter of national security and weapons of mass destruction. And we know that. We don't think that. We've met with people that deal with that, right? Do you agree with that? Do you think that we are in a race with China and Russia? There's other countries.
We are not in a race with China and Russia. That is the distraction. We are not in a race with any other country. Okay, the fallen angels have already been here the whole time. They're running the entire planet. They're keeping these proxy wars up and instigated and propagandized to keep the people occupied. That's all it's about.
He's competing to weaponize this, and do you think that's a problem? Because you've dealt with weapons of mass destruction in your official career.
I think strategic deterrence has migrated out of, has evolved from being relying on nuclear weapons as the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we have, and others have developed the means to maybe utilize nuclear reactions to create some very dangerous effects through directed energy.
Your concern is directed energy weaponry,
among many. But
many.
But when it comes to WMDs and relations to this technology, I think we have been successful in both deriving new science that we have then suppressed to preserve a strategic advantage. And I think I probably don't want to talk too much more about deterrence.
Somebody was flying these things that crashed. Somebody built these things that are being reverse engineered. Who's that somebody? And why don't they come forward? I mean, you may not have seen that in a document or a file or something somewhere, but you've thought about it. You're a smart guy. What are your thoughts on the big picture questions? Who are they? Why are they here? Why don't they show us what's going on?
I think I have a good degree of confidence that the reason they're here is us. I think life, especially sentient life, is a precious thing. And I think to some, it might be a resource. I think humanity to some level is a resource for them.
Like a commodity?
Possibly a commodity, possibly form of entertainment, possibly medical related.
Think they live here?
Yes.
For all intents and purposes?
Yes.
Always?
Basically. I don't know about always, but it certainly appears that they have been here for most of recorded history. At least some element of this has been here for most of human recorded history.
You think we would see them if they didn't let us see them? Even with our more advanced sensors, that they pop up, but they can also disappear. And do they allow us to get these glimpses? Is that a game of some sort, I wonder? Or an education process?
It's a bizarre one that I could not understand if it is a game. I think they're both just as powerful as we think, but also less. And I think there is not a single they here. Certainly multiple factions of the same species, if not multiple species. And all the complexity that brings, which might be our best hope.
So I hope you've been paying attention to what he's saying here. He's dropping so many jewels here without telling you exactly what it is. I just want to go back a little bit and just kind of go through this with him.
I think I have a good degree of confidence that the reason they're here is us. I think life, especially sentient life, is a precious thing. And I think to some, it might be a resource.
Okay. There we go. Life, sentient life, the soul is a resource. They harvest souls. That's not all that they harvest. Listen.
I think humanity to some level is a resource for them.
Resource means we provide them a food source. They get souls from us. We're a source of nutrients for them with the adrenochrome harvesting. We're food for them. And he also said entertainment. Very clever. Entertainment could be when these things scare us, we secrete this adrenochrome and we secrete this fear, and they feed off of that fear. So it's a form of entertainment because they're probably finding ways to trigger us as human beings to produce said energy for these fallen to feed off on. Yeah.
Like a commodity?
Form of entertainment, possibly medical related.
Think they live here?
Yes.
For all intents and purposes?
Yes.
Always?
I don't know about always, but it certainly appears that they have been here for most of recorded history, at least some element of this.
Okay, that goes back to the scriptures. What I've been telling you, the Bible, they've been here. They were the originators and creators of this system on this planet. They've been here the whole time.
Has been here for most of human recorded history.
You think we would see them if they didn't let us see them? Even with our more advanced sensors, that they pop up, but they can also disappear. And do they allow us to get these glimpses? Is that a game of some sort, I wonder? Or an education process?
It's a bizarre one that I could not understand if it is a game. I think they're both just as powerful as we think, but also less. And I think there is not a single they here. Certainly multiple factions of the same species, if not multiple species.
Multiple fractions of the same species. All fallen angels, different variations. And he left a glimpse of hope. Because with the word and with our refuge in the word and in God, we can fight these things spiritually if we stay on the right path, the true and right path. Because remember, God gave us dominion over the angels, not the other way around. So we're just locked in a prison right now. We've fallen into a prison. We're behind enemy lines, and we have to walk carefully to get to the other side of it. So he leaves you a glimpse of hope there by saying these creatures are very powerful, but maybe not as powerful as we may think as well, because we do have weapons that we can use against them, and that's the word. That's the spiritual word. Remember, we were not against flesh, right? But we were against dark forces in high places. Remember? That's what it is.
And all the complexity that brings, which might be our best hope.
Do they have an agenda? There's different types. What are your philosophies on this? Like, who are the others? Why are they here? And you've touched upon it. I know we're kind of going back a little bit, but that is the big question. And I just wanted to separate so people understand your exposure and your personal conclusions.
So I have been exposed to no direct information on the anatomy, biology, intentions, culture, politics.
Never came across those files?
Never came across those. I think those are all some of the deepest secrets.
Right. They would be if this is correct information.
What I have learned is that we live in a dream, a carefully constructed reality. We make use of a science that is tightly controlled and suppressed and distorted. I think we are left behind.
Humans.
I think normies, the normal humans, the people have been left behind. Us. People need to understand that we might have freedom of speech, but that has been subverted. We do not have freedom of inquiry. We are blocked from learning what we need to know. Just in the public world, we are blocked from advancing in science. We are taught false science intentionally to prevent us from learning more. We live in the Matrix. It's just much more boring than the movie. Normal humans, the people, have been left behind.
I want to stop there. The way I received that statement, left behind, I look at it in two ways. Number one, could be left behind because there's a breakaway civilization. So maybe parts of humanity made a deal with these beings to trap our souls here, and they went on to another planet or something else, another dimension. And maybe we got left behind here in that way. Left behind that we're casualties of a war, of an angelic war, a war that the fallen angels waged against God the Most High, and we're trapped behind enemy lines, as I said before, and we've been deserted for an extent until the Most High can come and get us. As crazy as that may sound, that actually may be what's going on. I'm speculating here, but it's food for thought.
Mm-hmm. People need to understand that we might have freedom of speech, but that has been subverted. We do not have freedom of inquiry. We are blocked from learning what we need to know. Just in the public world, we are blocked from advancing in science. We are taught false science intentionally to prevent us from learning more. We live in the Matrix.
We live in the Matrix. And we're in a dream world. So with that being said, family, I'm going to let it go. I hope you learned something from this podcast today. So at least now you won't have to be looking for alien disclosure anymore. You won't have to wait for Greer or the rest of them to give you another alien convention or hopes of photos or some kind of crazy UFO pic. You'll know exactly what's going on. The war is spiritual. And that's why I say you must build your armor and pray. Because we are in a dire situation and we're trying to wake people up so they can see it and break out of the matrix, so to speak. And so I will leave it there. Please share the video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments. I'll respond when I'm able. Peace.